Shana Tova and Happy New Year. I'm speaking from Israel to the Canadian friends of Yad Vashem, and I'm very happy that you dedicate this evening as a tribute for the righteous. In our time, World War II, I think the world was divided into three parts. One part were the victims. As one said already, not only Jews were among the victims, but all the Jews were victims. The other part of the world were the murderers, the Nazis, Nazi German, and all those who participated and cooperated with them to liquidate the Jewish people. The third part of the world, which was the majority of mankind, keeping silent. They didn't say a word, or they said very little. They didn't do all the efforts could be done to prevent, to avoid the massacre and the mass murder of the Jewish people. In that period, dark period of humanity, World War II, was one small group. They were the light, not in the edge of the tunnel, in the mid of the dark tunnel, the righteous among the nations. People not Jewish, who were ready to sacrifice their lives, their families, in order to save life of a Jew, a Jewish family, or even more. Those righteous among the nations, that we in Yad Vashem give them the whole honor. And you can see a boulevard with trees carrying their names. The world had to take them for an example, a model of education, of morals, of ethics. This evening in Toronto is a way how to commemorate for eternity the names and the lives and the biographies of the righteous among the nations. That's why I am very grateful to your activity. Shana Tova.
Eugene and Esther Kaufman were married in 1934. After the birth of their daughter Helen in 1936, Eugene and Esther migrated to Paris, where they worked as furriers in the Parisian district of Les Lilas. In 1942, Esther Kaufman was arrested by the German authorities and imprisoned in the Drancy internment camp in Paris, which was used to hold Jews who were later deported to the extermination camps. It was fortunate that Eugene Kaufman's fur trade was in high demand by the occupation authorities, as Eugene claimed that he needed his wife to help him with his work and managed thereby to free his wife. Esther's experiences in the camp brought home the stark and tragic reality that the Jews of Paris were in grave danger. Eugene and Esther decided it was time for their family to search for a safe shelter. Fortunately, the Kwiatek family, who were good friends with the Kaufmans, put them in contact with a friend and neighbor of theirs, Marie-Francois Borel. Marie offered Eugene, Esther, and their little girl refuge in a small house with 2 rooms in Romainville, close to Paris. The Kaufmans lived there from June 1942 to August 1944. It was clear that Marie's selfless act had saved the lives of the Kaufmans, as their previous apartment was visited and sealed by the German authorities. However, the Kwiatek family was in mortal danger of their own. Mr. Kwiatek was a hat and glove maker who had moved to Les Lilas from Poland with his wife and 2 young daughters, Paulette and Thérèse, in 1933. In June of 1941, Mr. Kwiatek was jailed in the Pithiviers camp, from which he was transported to Auschwitz. While Mrs. Kwiatek had a most difficult time without her husband, she was fortunate to receive some aid from her non-Jewish neighbors. However, in June of 1943, an informant disclosed the location of the 2 young girls, aged 7 and 3 at the time, were arrested by the gendarmes and taken to Paris. A family friend intervened, and the girls were released. Following this event, Marie-Françoise offered Feiga Kwiatek and her 2 daughters shelter in her little country home, where they lived from June 1943 to 1945.
In December 44 or January 45, my parents sent me to live with my grandmother, Marie-Françoise Borel, in a small village, in a small farmhouse. And there I met Thérèse Kwiatek and Paulette Kwiatek, as well as their mother, Mrs. Kwiatek. And we all lived together as one caring, supportive, and very closely knit family.
Feiga assisted with the agricultural duties, and the family enjoyed the loving and protective treatment from all of their surrounding neighbors, who well knew the circumstances of how the Kwiatek family came to their village.
They were Jewish, I was aware of that, but whether you were Jewish or not, in the mind of almost all of the left, was insignificant. She did it because that is the way you behaved.
They lived a sheltered and calm life, and Marie-Françoise treated Paulette and Thérèse as if they were her natural grandchildren. After liberation, Mrs. Kwiatek and her eldest daughter Paulette returned to Les Lilas, while Thérèse continued living with Marie for a few more months. In time, Mr. Kwiatek, who had survived Auschwitz, came to reclaim his daughter Thérèse, and the 2 returned to Les Lilas, where the family was reunited.
If we were put in a similar situation, what would we do? We were talking about that just the other evening. You know what, honestly, I don't know. I would hope I would do the right thing, but when you know what could happen, I would have to dig real hard to find that courage.
She simply did the right thing in her mind. And it was not even a question of analysis. Spontaneously, you did the right thing. And in a way, it was a privilege for her to have a moment like this, to realize that she was made of the right stuff, of the ethical stuff, of the good stuff.